Arif and Ali, welcome to the Quint.
Hi. Hey, I'm Arif. And I'm Ali. Good to be here. Thank you.
What is Sufi comics? I mean, it's been called a marriage of spirituality and comics. What it is?
Well, that's a good way to put it, a marriage between spirituality and comics. These are stories we learned while we were growing up in school, in our madrasa. We also grew up reading a lot of comics. So when we grew up, we wanted to share these stories with others. I'm sure they would also find a lot of value in it. And then we thought, instead of putting it up in text form, why don't we do it in the form of comics? Most of our stuff is beyond the Quran, as in Quran is taken as a reference, but it's taken from Islamic history and tradition and poetry.
So how did it all start? Basically the imagery part of it, which actually I think is the most crucial and difficult.
I started learning to draw, and as I got better at it, I thought, okay, let me start making stories. And I would put them up on the blog.
We would work on the comics together. We would decide on what story to do. We'd work on the storyboard, and then eventually Ali would sketch it out. They had got me addicted, so I sketched out a few comics. When we launched Sufi Comics, we were very clear that we wanted to stay true to the original text, true to the message. What we look in mind is how much of the story is speaking to the soul, has a timelessness to it.
These were stories that were very close to us when we were growing up, and the message was so universal. When parents come and they share how these books have inspired their children to become more sensitive and more empathetic, people of other faiths, they come and they share that, you know what, this is so beautiful, I had no idea, this is just like my own faith. When I get messages from schools who are using this as teaching material, that's very heartening for us to hear. I hope people kind of pick up the books because they can learn the messages that are there in the Quran, and they realize it's so universal that anyone reading it can draw a lesson from it.